Alright, we're live.
Alright,
Live on gentlemen.
alright, I'm going to call to order the planning board meeting for the town of Webster, January 6th, 2026. We have to change that on the agenda.
Uh-oh.
2026. Alright, so let's take attendance.
Dean Lampert.
John Clark.
Susan Youngs.
Teresa Fenimore.
Alright, so it looks like the first thing on our agenda is the Pillsbury Lake.
So, thank you all for having me. I'm Michael Malika. I'm sorry?
You can come sit up.
Thank you.
At the,
That'd be convenient.
at the table.
Big kid.
You won't have to sit, have to
A big boy
stand.
chair, I like that. I like that a lot.
So I'm just curious, who put this together?
The document that was sent
Yep,
is the original when Pillsbury Lake
Uh-huh, yep.
Community was organized. This was the packet that came to those individuals who were prospective or buyers
Mm-hmm,
of lots in the Pillsbury zone. And what it did is it explained the expectation.
so this isn't new, that's the question.
No, in fact,
This is only the old one.
Yeah, the last
Oh.
update date in this packet is 15 years ago or something. I don't have it off the top, but it's on the back page. Last
2014.
updated in 2014, right.
Yep.
Okay, so Pillsbury Lake District was formed by putting together Pillsbury Lake, as I understand it, and this is not defined, right? It's the best I understand. It was like Pillsbury Lake Corporation who put in the dam, flooded the river, created
yep.
the lake, put the lots up for sale, okay? So that group went belly up 6 or 8 years ago. I don't even know that specifically. So again, that problem of transition of one commission to the next. But as best I understand, so this was a number of years ago. But this was the original document that was shared with individuals that were considering or purchasing properties around Pillsbury Lake, or I shouldn't say it that way because it's not just the lakefront, it's the
Yeah, it's
entire
the whole
PLDT
district.
community. So the reason this is interesting is this. There are restrictions in the deeds for the bulk of the lots, and I can't say, I haven't found a way to prove it is true, that it's in all lots of PLVD. But for at least the ones that appear that were sold, have these restrictions in the deeds. So the reason I shared this document today is trying to just take a step back for a moment. So what we're trying to do is come up with a set of ordinances within the current zoning, because Webster has us as a residential district, but no language as to what a residential district does or does not confine. And so we'd like to move that direction, because in going that direction, we would have appropriate language that you're comfortable with, we're comfortable with. If in the future there's other residential development, it may need to be reconsidered or broadened or what have you. But at least there would be a basis, and it would cover us for now. Because as the Pillsbury Lake Commissioners, we get calls for the rooster that crows
Yep,
every
yep.
single day, the car that has been there without tires for 10 years, the people that are living in a camp trailer on the lot, blah, blah, blah. And there, so we've called the Webster Police Department for enforcement on some of these things to try to help the people that are complaining, and they're like, there's nothing for us to enforce against. So that's the barrier we're trying to climb over.
Yep. I
So-
had thought that you were going to bring a draft of a new, I thought that's what I understood from the last
Right.
It looks like
discussion.
there are edits in there, though.
Yeah,
Well-
well, I wanted to ask, what are the edits, the color, yours is colored.
Okay, so I appreciate your patience, but so things move slowly, especially in the holidays. But so what has happened is we've had a number of discussions within our monthly meetings, talking about what should or should not be put into a proposed new zoning ordinance for residential. And so what happened is we got a pushback that was, listen, we already have these restrictions on our deeds, so don't we have something that's enforceable? So I went to NHMA and I spent some time talking with attorneys and really dug in through it. And they said, listen, the board that created, the corporation that created these ordinances or restrictions, these covenants, whatever you want to call them, no longer exists. So there is no enforcement body. And so when I call up and Steve says, hey, I can't do anything, I can go talk to them, see if they'll be better neighbors, but that's all I can do. He's absolutely right. These are unenforceable. But within our community, we have these people saying, hey, we've already got these things, why are we doing something more? So we've gone through the effort with NHMA to come to a conversation about how to best proceed forward. What we are hearing is working within Webster as the existing residential district is clearly the best path forward. It'll expedite the process. It leads us to a set of agreeable restrictive covenants that you folks are good with, we're good with, and are enforceable, which is our end goal. And then it's always amendable in the future should somebody come in with an alternative design subdivision or something that's not already accounted for in the residential zoning of Webster. So it provides that future flexibility with us having a voice in that future, and it puts you in a position where you're not doing anything more or less, but if we need to call for enforcement, it can act. So what I'm bringing forward today is just to share with you what the people in PLBD were reacting to when we created the conversation, saying we already have these restrictions. So what my next step is, and what I'd like to share with you today, and see if you're comfortable with the process, is I can go through this, and I already have separately. I won't go through it in detail tonight, but if you look at this, animals and pets, it's exactly what we're talking about. People can have cats. They can have 40 cats if you want, but you can't have farm animals in your yard. The definition of what the zoning is, home businesses, the vacant lots and how they're treated, all these things are in these initial codicils. But I've already looked at the zoning ordinances for a number of towns around us. Specifically, I chose Warner, Bradford, Henniker, and Hopkinton. And I went through them in detail to say, what are the things that people in a community are asking to be protected from through proper zoning ordinances? And it's a fairly close list to what is in here, but there are also other topics that we need to consider, such as pre-existing conditions. So we have some people that are living in a camp trailer on a lot on Deer Meadow Road. So if we put a zoning ordinance in place and that is restricted, how do we deal with that situation? Do we give them a period of time? Are they grandfathered? What have you? So there are considerations not just for what we'd like enforceable, but the point of enforcement, the method of enforcement. We would also, based on what I'm hearing, we would also like things, so for instance, for the people, and this is kind of out of the air, but the barking dog type thing, every day, all day long. Okay, so a first warning is a warning. A second warning is a fine. A third warning is a larger fine. A fourth warning is, hey, we'll come by and get your dog. Whatever. So the whole point is that as we enter into this, the feedback I'm getting is, yeah, we want this and we want it enforceable, and it's more right wing than left. I got to say, it is if we're gonna do this, we wanna make sure there are teeth in it. So, putting something together as a draft is going to include those topics for which we'd want enforcement. Again, the farm animals, the cars without wheels, the whatevers, the junkyard, whatever. All these things, so we wanna make sure it's inclusive. We'd wanna make sure there are specifics about how it would be enforced and what levies of fines might look like, and what the grandfathering provisions might be. So while on the first brush, it looked like, okay, not a slam dunk, it's gonna take some work, yeah, but, you know, I think we have a good sense now of the body of work, and NHMA has provided their input that, in their opinion, we're heading the right direction to work within Webster, not to try to do something one-off and rejuvenate old restrictions or something. So what I'm, again, here to do tonight is just to tell you that there has been some work done. We are heading a particular direction. Get feedback from you. Get, in your opinion, what you feel appropriate next steps are. In my view, I see this as it's time for us now to take from this, take from other ordinances, draft something that might be appropriate. And looking at Webster's zoning ordinances, you have basically the framework of a lot of others where you have the list of statutes, you have the list of the definitions of abutters and, you know, all these different terms and whatnot. Those things exist. I'll need to look at those to make sure they're inclusive of anything that we are proposing. But beyond that, I don't think, other than that touch point of definitions being included, I don't think there's anything that we would propose which wouldn't just be a drop-in new section to the existing ordinance, which is specified as residential. So that would be my path, to come up with that draft, look for that overlap of definition of terms, and bring that within the next meeting, or perhaps two. You know, I work too, but we'd like to keep this moving. We know that down the road, and I don't want to open Pandora's box here. I know down the road we're going to have public hearings and get public input so that you are comfortable, not only PLVD, but other Webster citizens are comfortable with the approach being taken. But we're not going to make it for March. So I think we're looking for a year from March for us to have come through the draft process, iterated it in meetings like this, fine-tuned it, do the public hearings, and be ready to go probably well in advance of next March. So I just said a lot. I know that's a lot to unpack, but that's the approach I'm seeing. I'm looking for your pushback on what you think we ought to do more or different, if I'm missing something. But otherwise, you know, I'm gonna go on my merry way for a month, if I can, 2 worst case, and be back to the next meeting, February, March, with that initial draft. And that's gonna come from the PLVD board. It will not come from the PLVD public. It'll come from us, having heard what we did, taking it and creating a draft. Get your inputs, and if we're solid, great. If you have some thoughts, if you need a month to digest it and we come back and talk again, great. But then at that point, tighten the draft and then get the public hearings underway by summer, I would think.
Would you like some suggestions?
Please.
One of the spots that definitely needs to be addressed is the dogs on recreational property. Because of the Disability Act, you have to allow some service dogs. You can't say no dogs at all. So I think that's an area that you should explore.
Thank you.
You're welcome. The other is on the fines. Whenever you're assessing fines, you need to think of follow-through, not just what they did wrong in your assessing the fine, but what are you gonna do after you've assessed the fine, whether or not they pay it? You mentioned the removal of the dog if need be. And that is one option that a lot of associations do if they don't satisfy the issue by, say, the second fine. The third step, if it's in writing, can be an eviction of the pet. Again, this all has to be in writing. And once that happens, then you need to talk about the fines themselves when they're assessed. Are there gonna be late fees if they don't pay the fine? And what's the recourse beyond the late fee? And I know some associations, what they do is they'll actually go as far as putting a lien on a deed if the fines are not paid. And the last thing to remember for fines, when you're thinking about if you're gonna assess a late fee, you wanna consider whether that late fee will be assessed on a monthly basis or just once. And that should be in writing too.
And I was gonna mention something that if it's gonna be in the zoning ordinance, it needs to act like a zoning ordinance,
Yes.
not a housing association agreement, because the fines are more of a provision of a housing association. It's not a zoning ordinance thing. That's not really how zoning ordinances work. Because what I was going through when I went on this document is it really was like you were trying to set up a new housing association agreement. And that also might be something your board might want to explore, is reestablishing the homeowners association.
I think that's what we did, and,
Yeah.
and I'm not combative, I'm saying that's why I went to NHMA, saying, what's the better path here?
Right.
And they were like, throw it up, tear it up, get rid of it, work with Webster.
Yeah.
Then you're-
So I want to try to provide a couple different options and some history, as well as support this as a process. I think it's absolutely appropriate for the planning board and for Webster to be looking at the zoning regulations and what makes sense to be residential. And for example, whether Pillsbury Lake is the only place that remains residential, or whether a certain provision of a subdivision may force something into being residential in the future or not. One of the things that you mentioned is kind of the downfall of this, which is the grandfathering. If you pass a new zoning legislation, that's fine, but like, for example, portions of the current zoning don't actually apply to my property because it was established before that. So these sorts of things, like you can't all of a sudden start enforcing against something. To a very strategic point in the document that you showed, one of the things was, for example, dealing with chickens. And then the farm animals and similar. And you're gonna run into very quickly a definitional debate and dilemma, because what is one person's farm animal is another person's pet, is another person's hobby, is another person's side business. And unless you have all of it perfectly defined, you're gonna have huge problems in zoning with it. And so going down this path is appropriate, but a lot of the things that it sounds like you're trying to enforce and want to do don't actually work really well within a zoning regulation. So that brings me to my other main point, which is the history that also leads to what are ways that things can be enforced. You mentioned the corporation that kind of did everything. They formed the District for Water and then also PLM, or Pillsbury Lake Management, which was in effect the HOA. You mentioned several years ago, I don't remember the exact date, but I'm gonna guess it was 4 or 5 years ago that PLM finally completely folded. Its basic final act was assigning and giving the clubhouse to the district from the Pillsbury Lake Management Group. My understanding of that was that basically it was being run by volunteers from people within the district, and there weren't enough volunteers anymore, and the last person quit and disbanded the group. Without any specific vote or anything on that, it just kind of, I would say, disbanded as opposed to closed. This to be said, that used to be where you took fees from everybody like an HOA. You had the enforcement arm towards all of these deeded restrictions, and that would be where the legal funds would come from to go after people who didn't want to follow those restrictions. Currently, because they are deed restrictions, your other course of action currently is that any person who has those deed restrictions in place with them and their neighbors, that can be a civil suit. Any neighbor can go after another. The challenge with everything of all of these is always going to be the legal funds to do so. Whether it's one person saying, well, yeah, I want someone else to take care of it because of legal funding burden, or the HOA is gonna have to collect lots of fees because they no longer have funds coming in from a clubhouse that they used to rent all the time in order to help fund these legal things. Or whether it's the town having to say, well, we're gonna have to increase the legal lines in order to go enforce all of this and tax all of the residents more. So these are all things that need to be considered, and to give you the perspective that even if it doesn't put what you're hoping for, or all of what you're hoping for, into zoning, there are other avenues that you can continue to pursue that would also effectively do that enforcement on.
I appreciate that insight, David, very much. So the types of things I have experienced as a commissioner in 3 years have been chickens from one person's yard running all over the other person's yard, and we can call the cops, but all they can say is, that's not nice. You know, there's not.
And that's the same thing with the village district, because it's actually a water district, whereas the PLM was the HOA, they would have had that authority.
Right.
And so you could recreate that.
So, agreed. So, using the suggestion and theory that you just put forward, then the neighbor who's being imposed upon by the other's chickens could file a civil suit
Yes.
against their neighbor. So that's one thing. If you come into PLVD, the clubhouse is on the left. The very next house has a 1960 or 70 Cadillac with no wheels on it. The Landau roof is all ripped and torn off it, and it has sat there for a decade. People want rid of that thing. It's an eyesore. So, I shouldn't use such a specific example, I suppose, but I'm trying to share that. Okay, so something like that, it's unlikely that a person next door or a person who drives into the district past that every single day of their life is going to pull together their gumption to file a civil suit for those people basically having a junkyard. Now, a zoning ordinance can be very specific about things like that. And so if you have an unregistered car that is undrivable, and there are different levels of rules based on what I'm reading. You know, if it's 2 in the yard, goes 1. If it's 1 in the yard, how long has it been? Is it registered? Is it not registered? Is it drivable? Yeah. So there's all sorts of detail underneath that. What we would look for, as far as what I'm hearing and thinking, is something that says, if it's sitting there for 6 months, it's undrivable, it's unmovable, and it's deteriorating, and it's an eyesore, we can impose upon you to remove it.
So sorry to jump in again, but
Please do.
I will refer to 2 things there. One is that you're dealing with specific timeframe and penalties, and those are more HOA, not zoning ordinance.
Okay.
Zoning is this is what's allowed. HOA is this is the penalties for not doing the things that you've agreed to. The second thing If you want to go further down that path of you're allowed to have X number of cars or whatever, the thing that I would point you to, which a good search for, because I know the planning board, even as far back as when I used to be on it, and I know they've had this discussion several times since. If you look up the difference between junky yards versus junk yards, and you can enforce against junk yards, you almost can't enforce against junky yards. And maybe our new code enforcement officer may have some additional nuggets of wisdom to help make that better enforceable, but that is the kind of the short version of it. But there's been lots of discussions. I'd encourage you to dive into that.
Sure.
Yeah, and can actually we get introduced to our,
Yeah, this is Matt
So-
Garside, our new code enforcement officer. He's been
Hi.
employed by the town for about 2 weeks now.
Give or take.
And we're gonna throw him in the deep end.
On the fine subject, how towns enforce it is per day. And the fine on paper is not a ridiculous fine, it's $275. It's not ridiculous.
Well,
But when
that's,
you read the per day part of it,
it gets ridiculous.
that's when it gets ridiculous. So she is right on the enforcement part of it. You do gotta look at that, and you do have to find some kind of backup that allows it. You don't wanna make the fine too pleasant, because I just let it roll for 3 months and not deal with you and get you out of my hair. But you wanna make it pleasant enough where someone goes, oh, okay, and then they read the next, oh, okay, so this can stack up. Farm animal wise, if you're getting a lot of complaints on chickens, I would suggest you put an ordinance in there defining what you call farm animals. I don't see how you're going to stop people from chickens. It's just, it's not a thing. Everyone wants chickens, everyone wants their own eggs, and technically, I would come in here and argue against you that you're stopping me from maintaining my own livelihood, which I have chickens at my house. They produce eggs, I live off those eggs, you know what I mean? So, if you're gonna put an ordinance in there and chickens are your big issue, I would put a definition in there about, not a definition, I would put an ordinance in there about what is tolerated, you know? We're allowing chickens, but chickens need to be fenced in.
Right.
And then you
It's
need
not
to
free
come.
range chicken.
Yeah, come to the board and just say, hey, this is a quick drawing of what I'm doing. So then it's on record that this is what they're doing, so when they stray away from it, you're kind of okay.
Sure.
And then I would also check zoning ordinance on fire ruined buildings. It should be a lump sum category, fire ruined buildings. It's a weird category where if you write it like that, people don't read it as ruined buildings, they read it as fire ruined. But in the definition of it, in the category, it'll say fire or ruined buildings. So then you're able to enforce somebody with a hole in their roof that, hey, you have 1 year to fix the hole in your roof, or some guy's car hit a deck and the deck's fallen down, but it's not under fire ruined, but it is a ruined building. So then you're able to enforce the aesthetically pleasing part of it.
So, a number of very valuable points, and I appreciate it. So, to the chickens, yeah, we don't care if people have chickens, but you can't have them in the neighbors' yards.
The second you put chickens in the category of farm animals and you tell people they can't have them, everything's gonna get shot down. That's all I was.
Sure. And roosters. I don't care if you have a rooster, but if somebody's complaining against the noise factor in a
Yes,
residential
no,
ordinance,
and I was gonna say
then
that,
that's
there's-
something else.
There's a certain amount of chickens per rooster you're allowed to have. And then over, oh God, what was it? I got 10 chickens, I had 2 of them roosters. So I didn't have the right ratio, so I had to go get more chickens, because that's what, it's a real thing. Swear to God, it's a real thing, my wife taught me all about this. So you can put in there, you know, hey, we're allowing 1 rooster, no more than 8 total chickens, and then you're in that weird category where no one can really complain because they're allowed the adequate rooster, you know, they're allowed a rooster because the rooster will defend your chickens.
Right, but let me interrupt. The point isn't the rooster, it's the crowing. And so it's these zoning, residential zoning ordinances, pretty much across the board, have a broad statement which says, essentially, we're protecting your neighbors from noise, noxious smells, inappropriate behaviors, and all these, and everyone has written similar to the next, and I can't recite it, but the whole point is, be a decent neighbor, and if you're not, the residential zoning ordinance says, we're gonna jump on you for being out of line.
No, and that's where I was going to, you should probably put it in there of like, hey, chickens are allowed, but write the word chicken. Don't write the word rooster. Chickens are allowed, because or hens are allowed, put hens in there. Because chickens can be a broad category, but you can write hens because that's a female chicken. Hens are allowed up to X, but they gotta be in a cage. You know, if you want over 6, please come to the board and present it. So then you're defining exactly what you're okay with. Because once you have them caged in and they're hens, they're gonna cluck, they're gonna smell. But it's not a rooster crowing.
Right. So it's just behaviors that impose yourselves on your neighbors, and they fall into a number of typical categories. It's the smells, it's the eyesores, it's the revving motors, it's the, whatevers.
And the revving, he's right with the junky yards, and you're gonna have a tough time with that, so it is good to really get into the junkyard and get exactly what the definition is, and, if you guys are gonna put definitions in there for yourselves, you should redefine what you think the definition of Webster's junkyards means to you. So you're clarifying on top of Webster that you're defining it as this for your area of Webster. Not redefining or recreating the wheel, but
Yeah,
Agreed.
John,
So everybody's had a say, I'd like to have mine.
Please,
What's your first name? I'm sorry.
Michael.
Michael, I'm sorry, Michael. A couple things you said, I've written couple pages of notes here. I come from a legal background, I'll leave it with that. We have a code enforcement officer on board here, and that's great. We've worked very hard together. And I would encourage two of you to sit down sometime over a cup of coffee, put some pen to paper, and put some of these things down. Quite truthfully, working with Russ over the past year, one of my hangouts around this town is code enforcement. We have problems well beyond your area, okay? So we recognize and appreciate where you're coming from. Your only car is not a big problem, okay? There's 15, 20 cars in some of these yards, and I'm not saying that to be rude in any way.
No, fully
You used the term pushback. I don't think anybody wants to give you pushback. I think alignment is the key. But I think you need to look at it as a pyramid, okay? And so that you've got all this stuff down here. But you've got to look at what is and again, everything's spoken about what I mean by stuff. It's legitimate stuff, I get it. But what you need to think about is the legal vehicle or the legal document that we have to have between this community and the wording of that for municipal alignment to some level of code enforcement with your community. And I think what the code enforcement officer is saying, you can jump right in on me here at any point, is that maybe the best enforceable codes are those codes that we already have and some trickle down from those codes. I appreciate your chicken problem. I get it, and Dave and I were chatting the other night, he made a very good point, and that your land down there is not like my land. I have 3+ acres of land and I'm backed by the federal property, so my neighbor's chickens running wild don't bother me. But if I had a half an acre of land and I woke up every morning to the rooster sitting on my fence while I'm drinking a cup of coffee, we'd probably have some concerns. Okay? I get it. You've got other problems down there. You got 12 vehicles parked at one house. That's a problem for me. And I'm sure it's a problem for you, and I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. I think we want to work together. I know David and I chatted about it with Russ at the board meeting the other night. We want to work together. I'd make a recommendation, have a selectman to work with you and the code enforcement officer, and Russ kind of overlooking all of it. He's taught me a few things, and I know a few things, but I've learned quite a bit from Russ this year, and I'm glad to see we have a trained, certified code enforcement officer working with us. But I don't think anybody wants to give you pushback, but I think you need to look at the macro before you get down into the weeds and make that alignment. And what we need to do is check, how you move forward in this. Check with our attorney and maybe get some legal definition as to how we align this with our code enforcement. Is it a subsection? Is it, our our code and then your code, which I'm just using it as an example, and it's probably a very inappropriate example. But there has to be a legal termed alignment between the community of Webster and your somewhat semi-private community, so enforcement can be done. Help me out here, is there anything I'm saying that isn't?
No, you're absolutely correct, and I've seen that a lot in other towns where they do have, village districts and they have lake districts and like village districts, however you wanna word it. They have specific areas that are just defined in the front as slightly different, saying, hey, this lake district is all the lake properties surrounding the Pillsbury Lake within X amount of feet in this square mile, and they define it, and then they have subsections throughout the zoning ordinance. So it's still in there, which means you follow the Webster's ordinance, but by the way, we just don't want this here. And you can have that, and you're absolutely right with the subsections, because then you're aligning with us, and it's easier. It's a lot harder to follow two zoning ordinances.
So in our discussion, and Dave made some good points too, this is gonna be a legal issue. This is gonna create some time for our attorney to sit with you folks and, or maybe if you have an attorney, I don't know that, but our attorney is definitely gonna have to write some legal wording to create that alignment, so it's recognized by both local and state government. And if something needs to get prosecuted, that isn't the first thing somebody's gonna be objecting to, is there's no alignment with the town, so why are we here? Because if I was an attorney, that would be the first thing I'd say. But with that being said, I think you make some good points. Last time you were here, I think you were the spokesperson last time, I was a little confused, and I wish we'd had more time, because I said to our respectful chairman here, as we were leaving, I said, I really didn't understand what that gentleman was trying to say to us. But tonight, I get it. I think I got it after I thought about it, but you have more clarity tonight. And I think you were just trying to get it off the ground, what, 2 months ago, 3 months ago?
right.
Yeah, back this summer. But I think we want to work with you, we don't want to push back on you. I don't think good community is pushing back on people. Good community is trying to understand and redirect if you need to, but work together. So we're in a good place to do that. I'm just throwing that out. I'm the alternate, I'm a select board member, I'm not a full-time, but my colleague isn't here tonight, so I could speak up.
You got to talk.
I get to talk a little bit more, but does that make sense to you, what I'm trying to say? There needs to be a legal vehicle of wording to take it from one point to another.
100%.
I think the chicken problem, and I'm not being rude to you, I think the chicken problem is down here somewhere. I think you got a lot more things going on.
You're right, and so when I was here a couple of months ago, perhaps I didn't voice it very clearly, because it was a new concept, and something I was getting pushed to approach from a commission point of view. And I, not reluctantly, but somewhat lost in the woods, trying to figure out how to move forward. So in approaching you folks, it's like, you guys have your ordinances in place, and you call out Pillsbury as the only residential district, but then there's nothing in the entire zoning ordinance that specifies what you can or cannot do in a residential district. So how do we color in the rest of the picture? And I had a sense that, and maybe it was of my own making, but I'm gonna have to come up with something as a proposal for us to have as a draft to rally around, talk about, beat up, push back on, work through, iterate, till we get there. If there's a better way, through Russell's intercession, through select board representation, through mine and the other commissioners' efforts, if we can work more collaboratively to understand what that approach and step-by-step goal is, I think that's much more efficient, because it'll cut down by far the number of iterations that we'll have to go through in this process.
I think we need to identify the staircase.
I'm
We need
sorry,
to identify the staircase.
yes,
And I think we're saying the same thing.
Yes.
Respectful. We need to do that, but, and again, we need to work with all our colleagues sitting around the table here on how we do that. Probably it's gonna require a couple meetings, and then probably we're gonna have to have some legal advice on how we develop that conduit between us and you, and then go down the road of developing some things. And in a town like this, I've lived here 30 years, I'm small town New Hampshire, grew up on the other side of the mountain, now I'm here, I'm not trying to be, that's me. But with that being said, I understand these small towns as best I can, and you gotta go slow with it. You know, to get acceptance, you gotta go slow, you gotta walk slowly, and, you know, like I said, I don't want the gentleman living next to me thinking we're gonna, you know, give him 3 warnings and take his chickens, because that isn't gonna happen there. But
Mhm.
in your neck of the woods, it might. Yeah, I don't think we'll take the chickens, but I
No,
mean, you know,
And not to interrupt, but exactly to your point, when we talk about this within the PLVD commission meetings, it's, you folks are asking us to approach this problem and get rid of it because the rooster's crowing every day at 6 AM and 2 PM, and we have no way to do that for you. Then the community's like, okay, well, how are we gonna get this fixed? So we get that broad underlying support, and that works at the bottom of the pyramid. But you're absolutely right, it's factorially much more complex the further up we go.
well, much like this, you've done some good research, and I'm glad to hear you went over to New Hampshire Municipal because they provide excellent tutelage. But with that being said, I need to know more about this chicken problem. And maybe our code enforcement officer knows more than me about it, he's probably dealt with this in the past, but where does it become a violation, an ordinance, or a legal violation? Are they identified, and I think you made a point there, are chickens identified as farm animals? Are they identified as pets, somewhere in between? Is the rooster something else? I
Usually
don't
the
know.
rooster and people going on other properties.
Pardon me?
It's the rooster and the
encroaching.
chickens going on other
It's
properties.
Okay.
encroaching.
If you
Trespassing,
own them,
yeah.
they gotta be on your property.
Stock trespassing. So it comes into the stock list. So I mean, I think we need to understand those, myself better, to be able to talk about the hens and the chickens, so to speak. But what I'm saying is, we need to understand where is the violation? What law is broken, where's the RSA? Or what's the local ordinance that's broken? And do we have an ordinance on that right now? Do we have an ordinance on trespassing stock in
Do we have a
town?
leash law?
Right?
Do we have a leash
I
law?
don't- There's a state
No.
leash law,
No.
No,
and I don't think we have anything about, in
See-
our
see the problem?
ordinance regarding
it's not just your problem.
it's
I do.
livestock.
You wanna see the flip side of the problem?
Yeah.
Oh,
The
I
people
just
who are
wanted to get that
complaining
out
about the
there.
chickens in the yard
Have chickens.
have a dog.
Yeah.
So when the chickens are in the yard,
Yep.
if that dog happens to be out when those people let their chickens
Yeah.
run, the dog's after the chickens in the road,
It's called the
gonna get
hound and
hit.
mouth concept, yeah. No.
So,
Now
you know,
you
it's a
can-
real, it's a reasonable complaint.
Yep, Craig?
Go
Right.
ahead, Craig.
I think you're on the right track.
Yeah.
I support what you're doing. I noticed in this thing, for violation of water use, you have some fines. I assume that you, both Mr. Clark and David have brought up the fact that enforcement is a problem in town, despite Pillsbury issue. But the fines, I'm trying to understand this. You assess people in your district, right? They pay a certain amount. How much money do they pay a year, for example?
For water usage,
Well, no, for being part of the homeowners.
0.
That doesn't
It's
exist
just,
anymore.
Oh, it doesn't exist.
He
So,
was trying to
so
get the-
when you have a $200 fine, where does that go?
so,
That's where the nonprofit has
and you
to
know what,
raise that.
I'd like to put a big broad stamp on this and say, this conversation is not about the water district. That
Yeah, I
is
got that, I got that.
separately documented and everything else, and.
But
and
this
so-
gentleman's a lot like me, and I gotta be honest with you, Dave had to educate me. No, bear with me, he had to educate me Monday night. I'm not real familiar, I remember I remember when I worked in Concord, back in 1974, 78. I believe that the lake was there then, it was built then, right? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, it was.
And I remember a lot of Concord police officers, that was the new safari, dream to go to Webster to the new lake. But I don't know what the heck happened, or to use another term, I don't know what the hell happened between that 10 or 15 years when everybody was there 10 or 15 years, and now we've got to a place where they don't have a commission, where you people are trying to rebuild that. And what is the water district versus, you know what I'm trying to say? So I can understand where this gentleman, I didn't get your name, sir.
Craig Fournier.
Craig, I didn't understand where, I'm the same boat Craig is with, not understanding.
Sure.
Well, let me rephrase my question. That $250 fine, who pays it, where does it go?
All right, so, again, that is specific to the water system
Right,
and.
but I'm thinking more in general terms.
Okay. I can't generalize that, though. So if we were gonna find somebody about having a dog running and the police came and posted fine, I would assume that's Webster's fine. I would assume. If it's improper use of the water system, tapping in without authority, doing whatever, then we do have on our website the structure of various fines for inappropriate use of the water system. Those then become enforceable. So we as a water system feel we're pretty well, God don't test it, but pretty well contained. But this is for everything else. What I shared with you, I was going to just share those pages where there are highlights, because those are the types of things that a residential zoning ordinance, I think, would help us protect our citizens against.
Well,
But there's a lot of other information in here that's pretty much informative.
but I think, going back to the fines, I think fines get people's attention.
Yes.
They do.
And I'm all in favor of fines. The question, it's more of a, maybe a legal issue, I don't know.
Mhm.
They need in a perfect world, you'd establish an association, and it would just be your association that receives the fines or pays legal fees and what have you, in a nonprofit status. But it sounds like you're trying to move that to the town of Webster to receive the fees and pay the attorney and such.
And again, the reason,
Yeah.
and a big part of the conversation with NHMA was in fact enforcement.
Yes.
And so, what vehicle do you create, and then how do you enforce that vehicle? And if in fact we create an HOA, and you're gonna get fined this, or you're gonna get your chickens plucked, or whatever the hell,
Correct.
then we've gotta have the plucker on staff to go do it.
I've never heard of an association that actually removes the issue. Yeah, typically they have the homeowner remove the issue, whether it's a dog or a chicken or what have you.
Right.
Yeah, it's an eviction.
So that was the road that NHMA was pretty clear that we do not want to go walk down. It is creating a new HOA type vehicle of any legal description, because with that then comes the enforcement responsibility, which forces us to create a vehicle through which we can enforce, which creates additional expense, which creates a legal liability, which creates the everything else. Now, that doesn't mean we're trying to off the legal responsibility to you, but if we have properly drafted
together.
ordinances
Yeah.
and
They
you
go together,
enforce,
both sides.
if somebody sues Webster PD,
Yes.
you already have your protective liabilities in place. We would not have that. So it becomes a much bigger mushroom.
True,
Yeah,
I've
but
managed those.
if somebody contests it, then we have to go to court and it costs the town
Correct,
money.
cost the town money, yes.
Agreed, and, okay, and I don't mean to be cocky at all, but then let's come full circle. So if you have a zoning ordinance where you said Pillsbury's our only residential district, but you didn't consider, well, so what does that really entail? Then we've got a big gap in there. And so maybe we're trying to work together to fill a mutual gap.
Enforcement should be collaborative, okay?
Absolutely.
And,
Yeah,
you
I've
know,
seen, oh, sorry.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean
Nope, I was interrupting you, finish.
but I mean, I agree that it should be collaborative. It's not, we're gonna enforce this here, but, and ignore it over here.
Right.
Wrong boy to be talking that school to. Yeah. So, I mean, it's, I'm with you on that, but he's right, in that it costs money when we have to get our attorney involved. So that'll be brought up. I think what we're looking at is what's gonna get brought up, and as
Sure.
your words, what's gonna be pushback.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, and right, what's hard is there's this fine, thin veil between the fact that we are a particular zoning district, and there are things that people shouldn't be doing. They just shouldn't
Totally agree.
in a residential area, but we have no way to enforce or cause people to stop.
Okay, we have two people who've been trying to talk.
Yes, go ahead.
So, Russell, when are we adopting the 2026 zoning ordinance?
So it's gonna be in March.
Okay, and right now you have no zoning ordinance.
No, there is some provisions in the Webster zoning ordinance for the residential district, but it is very light. It is not,
It's about setbacks.
And
it's mostly about setbacks and stuff like that
Okay.
to conform with the original HOA agreements. So a lot of the stuff that you're talking about was in the deed restrictions isn't clearly defined in the Webster ordinance because, from my understanding, it was never supposed to be enforced by the town of Webster. It was supposed to be enforced by the HOA that no longer
Yeah.
exists.
And that's what I was gonna say, so you don't want an HOA, it's not gonna be an association, you are trying to slowly, if I understand this correctly, you guys are trying to join back into the Webster zoning, but with some changes and modifications, correct?
I would go a little beyond that in saying that,
Well-
we would like to have it be more encompassing within the Webster zoning ordinance.
So that's what I was gonna say, so you kinda either in the zoning ordinance or you're not, I mean, you could be your own separate zoning ordinance, but that's its own separate thing. I honestly, you're not gonna be forcing much for the next year, as it sounds like. I'd see if you can if you guys could adopt at least adopt the zoning ordinance of Webster.
Well, they have the zoning ordinance. They're in Webster.
They're in.
No, I know, but fully adopt it,
have it
everybody.
Yeah,
Everything
Okay.
that
It
applies to
didn't
the town
seem
of
like
Webster
that from the
applies to
conversation,
them.
that's why I was like, if you
Well, I
adopted it.
agree, there's something's amiss here, because I'm not getting that either.
I'm not, it sounds like I can't enforce anything in your area.
No, you can. However, you can only enforce what's in the
In
zoning
the
ordinance.
town, or in
In
the
the town
town
ordinance.
zoning ordinance.
What you can't enforce is the HOA agreements and the deed restrictions. If it's in
Okay.
our ordinance, it can be enforced. If it's not in our ordinance, we can't enforce it. And the problem with the ordinance as it stands is it's very light comparative to what is in the HOA agreement. And my understanding is you would like to get some of the stuff that the majority of the community down there likes in the HOA agreement and move that over to the town's zoning ordinance to make sure it reflects. And that's where the problems are gonna arise, because it's gonna come down to the pushback that you were talking about, is why is the town, the whole town, paying to enforce these restrictions? And that is gonna be the pushback that is gonna happen.
But we can
Sorry,
write
I
a-
misunderstood
We
that.
can write a very legal directive paragraph to align the two, so it speaks specifically in some of those ordinances, the definition to your neighborhood. That's what's amiss here.
Right.
Trust me, that's what we're missing. And if that's.
It's like it hasn't happened so much recently, but somebody standing up at town meeting, I don't understand why we're making the payment to fix the dam.
Correct.
Hillsbury
Right,
Lake.
right.
I've heard that before.
Yep.
yeah,
I mean,
Though
we're
this
not,
is the
thank
last
goodness
year
we're
of
not
that,
last
right?
$10,000.
27.
I thought it was this year.
I'm pretty sure it's 27.
Oh.
I'm pretty sure.
There goes that budget.
Almost to the end.
But,
All right.
But to echo, if I may,
Oh, yeah.
I totally agree with the way Russell just phrased everything. It's that,
Yeah.
but the bulk of Webster is residential agriculture. And so it's much more like the chickens on 3 acres than chickens on a 1/4 acre lot. So anything that somebody's doing in PLVD, which violates residential agriculture, we could step on that, but it's unlikely.
Okay.
It's the close proximity that leads to the need for
And then we get to
enforcing people's
now
personality.
the
I-
separate problem is it's not just the district that's adopting this, it's the whole town.
Right.
So if the majority of the town doesn't want it, even though the majority of people in the district want it, it could still fall flat in its face because people don't want new zoning, they're just gonna vote no, and that's it.
No, you
Which
didn't.
is one of the things that I've talked to the board before, when you go to adopt a new thing, you don't wanna overwhelm people, like with the wetlands ordinance. That was a very long document, and then we really didn't have much time to get the information out to the people and have enough feedback to really get that through.
And I would terminology, not to teach you, I'm sure Greg.
Please do.
I would suggest you start using the term compliance versus violating the law. You want compliance. And that's what we've done with the zoning in this town, is before our new person came on board, we have used the term compliance. Getting compliance from people to do what they should be doing And maybe that could be started on now, you know, I mean, it seems like you've got a pretty good start down, going to people, and maybe not just you going around, I mean, I'm sure there's a team of people with you, I'd like to hope there is, that's supporting what you're trying to do, and get those people to work with you, to go over to the neighbor's house and say, hey, a couple of you go over and say, hey, we're doing this, we're moving forward, can you please comply with this? And I realize that's probably an awful soft way to handle things. And it might, like we're talking about, as Craig mentioned, it might get to the fine stats, but we've got to develop that legal connect to be able to do that.
Yeah, as with any set of rules or laws or what have you, you've got 98% of people that go right along, just because they're conscientious and empathetic. Where you run into trouble is where you have the 2% that you try to get to be agreeable, and they take the stand that you can't tell me what to do, and at this moment, they're right. That's the tough spot.
It seems like the logical thing is for your group to look at the town of Webster zoning ordinances and then make a subset of what you think would have to be different for a residential district, and list out those things, because if we try to change the zoning ordinance, but it is clear that these particular rules are only to apply to the residential district, I don't know that we'd have as much trouble getting it, or would we have as much pushback from people?
It depends on how clearly people understand the
That
difference
is-
between the residential and the residential agricultural
Yeah, that
units.
was brought up before.
I would point out that doing that is great and is the way that it needs to be done. There will be probably two questions that show up. One is going to be what prevents that residential from then getting applied to someplace else in town? Or when does it, or when should it? And so that question will need to be
Yeah.
looked at.
And we can do that,
And the second question is, of course, the funding, the legal. Like, in the time that I've been here, which granted may seem a long time, but is not in the grand scheme of things, our legal budget has multiplied more than 10 times.
Yep.
A lot more than 10 times. And it's just gonna keep increasing as we do more enforcement. And when you do an enforcement, it's not just okay, it took some time to write a legal letter, have it filed with legal and get sent legally. Yeah, that's a minimal cost, but then, okay, they kinda sorta did it and then they stopped doing it and now it's back. Now you're doing it again and again, and then you're taking them to court.
And even when you go to court, you're not guaranteed to get the money back even if you win.
Right.
So,
you have to think that, you have to think down that road of, just because it's the common one, I'll use the chickens. If you go down an enforcement route with a chicken, okay, well, I kept them all in their pens. Okay. 2 months later, they're no longer in the pens. Okay, you gotta do it again. And then you do it again. And they did resolve the problem, so you're not moving to the next level in your hierarchy, but you're continually doing it, you're continually paying, and so on. If you then move beyond it with, okay, you are moving up the hierarchy, now we have to force you to get rid of these. Now you are dealing with courts, you're dealing with lots and lots and thousands of dollars in attorney's fees, just to try and deal with that one issue in one location. And then you have to make sure that you're also doing it to all the other locations that are similar, otherwise it's immediately thrown out in court anyway. So the funding is going to be a very big deal, so you need to make sure that what you put in there are the easy cut and dry situations that everybody's gonna go for in town. And the other things, like chickens, that you may want to try to do further enforcement of, or the beautification of the area, or specific designs of homes when they're being built. all of that was within the PLM stuff and is within an HOA, you may want to stand one, you may want to not stand one up, you may want to just start using the one that you already had again, so that you can do those sorts of things as well for the district. Because that's never going to make it out into zoning, because it's not zoning. But
So-
the basic things can, I think that's gonna be fairly, as long as they're kept basic, should be fairly easy to present.
Yeah, I would just reiterate what you just said, but try and keep it not too long.
Oh,
In
yeah.
other words,
Yeah.
hit the things that you really need to hit, and you'll have an easier time getting it through.
So the way the Webster zoning ordinances are written today is in the, I don't know, pick a number, 30 pages or whatever it is, there are literally like 2 mentions
That's
of
true.
PLVD. One's at like page 3, where it cuts it out as specifically a residential district, and then there's one later, and I forget what the frame of reference, it might be something about building enforcement or code enforcement for building or something.
I think it's more.
PLM did have a building board
Yeah,
of approval.
there was 2 sections, there's what you said before, where they define it as residential as residential only, and then the next part is they define what the setbacks are that are different from
In the
everybody
setbacks,
else.
okay.
Those are
So-
basically the major 2 things that are
Yeah.
in the ordinance regarding the district.
So, again, I'm probably getting too far ahead, but, I mean, if we're looking at how to create this so that there's not a lot of opposition, if we were to, I'm not gonna wordsmith it, but we're saying Pillsbury is cut out, it's a residential zone, and here are the residential aspects pertaining to Pillsbury Lake. Then if ever in the future, somebody comes around and says, I wanna create a subdivision or whatever, that's a ZBA, it's a reconsider everything, it's a what pertains, what doesn't pertain, it's their legal expense, it's, and, you know, we can put a little wrap around this, I would think, that would clarify that it has nothing to do with the agricultural residential
Right.
aspect.
You would define it as map 10, because map 10 is Pillsbury Lake.
Right.
Yep. Yep.
You know, it might be as simple as colon and applicable to the Pillsbury Lake residential district only. Yeah, I don't know that. I'm just,
Yep.
there's a lot, you know, a lot of great information. The whole chicken thing might just be a local ordinance for your district and a fine situation. You know, the chickens don't go away, but every time a chicken is perched on somebody's front doorstep, that's a $50 fine and builds up. I don't know, but I mean, I think Craig made a good point with that. I don't know how you can establish that, but you're not the only district in this state that must have these issues. I mean, I would think Canaan, I would think Enfield, Kentucky. I mean, I would take learned performances from, you know, I mean, I don't know. You know, you've researched it.
I think historical districts might be a good,
Yeah, historical
because they have a
district
lot
needs
of
to-
rules in
You know,
historical districts.
I think a work group, I mean, I think we're all saying the same thing, but I think what you need is to start not a committee, I hate that term, but maybe a work group of some select people to sit with you in your group and figure out how do we draw the bridge, number one, the legal bridge, and then how do we build down the pyramid? And you know, I don't wanna make a big to-do of it, but I think you need some help doing that, if that makes sense.
So, I appreciate that comment, and I hope to God we'll find somebody to run for our 3rd commission seat in March. I mean, that's the level of support we have. There's plenty of people at the meeting to bitch about the chickens, but there's not a lot of people at the meetings to help rally around, you know, moving the progress.
They all eat the eggs, though.
I'm sorry?
So they all eat the eggs.
Are we ready to move on? For now?
Can we clarify for just a moment, assumed next steps and how you'd like me to proceed? I think there's one open item that wasn't really addressed fully, which is, there is, if we're asking as a district within Webster to move this forward so that we can help, so that you can help us through enforcement, but there's a cost to that enforcement. Is there the potential that we're gonna need to have a conversation about what that enforcement costs and how it be remedied?
Why would there be a cost to enforcement of the code as it stands, or any additions to the code, if it's in the town of Webster?
If it's, yeah, if it's in our zoning.
I don't get that. Law enforcement enforces rules in the jurisdiction with where they stand. And I mean, it's like the code enforcement officer, he does the same thing. You know, you got a barking dog down there, that's noise complaint. There's an RSA on stray dogs. You can use the state RSA. You don't have to go with any ordinance in the town. And there's a process, there's a one, you know what I'm saying? But I mean, I'm sure that the department, but your other issue is your chickens, and I'm not sure that's defined with any definitive.
Your issue with the chicken and the dogs is if you call me in there and I go over there and you can show me all the pictures you want, but if I go down there and the chickens are in their yard or in their coop, there's nothing I can do. You can show me all the pictures. Yes, they're out there, but then that becomes a civil matter. You know, a barking dog is the same thing. The dog can bark all day. You can take a recording of the dog barking all day, but if I drive by and that dog's not outside not barking, that's a civil matter.
I don't think the contention was.
That's just an example, that's all. It was just,
Okay.
but easy examples I can give you.
That's why you need to have a working group to come up with some more definity and understanding of where we're going. And if there's where the alignments are, what the legal language is, and where you can build upon, and try to work with you to help you with some of these issues.
You know, it's like a junkyard. If you say someone's at a junkyard, I drive by, it meets the definition of a junkyard. You know, someone's not pulling that stuff out of there that day,
So,
unless Russell's calling.
David,
and
can I
telling them
put you
to
on the
move
spot?
Sure.
Because a moment ago, you were talking about the cost of enforcement and a broader view of this. And that's what I tried to circle back to, but I apparently missed the mark.
Sure.
Tell me how I missed the mark, or could you help clarify?
So the thing that I was getting at there is there will be a cost to enforcement for things like legal and court cases and similar. That is going to be something that would be across the town, so everybody would bear it. To John's point, and I think where you may have gone slightly off on that, is that it wouldn't be like some form of agreement where you pay us or we're not enforcing or anything like that. Nothing like that is.
And I wasn't
there.
suggesting that, I
Yeah.
was like, Webster might reach a point where they say, well, wait a minute, now we're taking on.
Yeah,
An
so
expense
that's
liability.
again where, like, if it were every day that someone was going out and trying to enforce against a chicken, then you've got all kinds of administrative and financial burdens that the town is dealing with. Whereas if it's a few ordinance that basically make sense, that are easy, that are common sense, that everybody's gonna be like, yeah, that makes sense, we should do that, I don't think you're gonna have much of a problem, and we probably also won't have to spend a whole lot of money enforcing all the time. The thing that you mentioned just a second ago about hoping that you get a third commission, but people complaining about chickens all the time. I would encourage you, and this is just me, I would encourage you next time that someone stands up and complains about chickens, to hand them the documentation for the Pillsbury Lake Management Group and say, here's everything you need to go do it, go ahead, restart it.
That, or you hand them the zoning ordinance and say, here's the zoning ordinance.
Because you as the commission are not a legal entity that can do anything about it.
Right.
But they can certainly start using the entity that can.
Yeah, no, you're right.
This is almost months.
I'd like to just take a moment to thank everybody. I know this has been a lengthy and somewhat casual conversation, but it's been incredibly informative, and I do appreciate that. I think there's an open item here, which I don't think I need an answer tonight, but if putting together a working group to move this downfield is the right way to go, I know I will be part of that group, and I will do everything I can to bring along additional Pillsbury residents to participate, at least to show up for public hearings and whatnot. But as far as how we pull together that group, who would be involved, what have you, I'd be very interested to, you know, carry the conversation forward. And for tonight, I'm happy to leave it there. But thank you, I appreciate all of your time.
Thanks for coming.
You bet.
Thank
Happy
you
New
for-
Year, everyone.
Thank you for the work you've done since the last meeting.
Thanks so much.
Yeah.
All right, are we ready to move to the,
The master plan, or would we
Master
like
plan?
to talk to Mr. Garside so he doesn't have to be here all night?
yeah, that would be fine.
And have you come up and introduce yourself and talk to the
Yeah,
board?
tell us.
Ooh, do I get a big boy chair? Or do I gotta stand up?
I've already got a warm.
I know, it's nice and warm, that's why I was all excited. I was like, I
Oh,
don't have to
good.
warm this up, it's not cold.
It's a little chilly in here.
I did turn the heat on.
I know, I know.
Good night,
Have a
all.
good night.
Good night.
I wasn't trying to freeze you guys out.
No, it's not that cold.
Fancy paperwork. I am Matt Garside, I am the new code enforcement officer. Yeah, it's been 2 weeks, right?
It's been 2 weeks.
And did we end up, I remember there was discussion of trying to combine with somebody, with another town. Did we do that, or are you just Webster?
Just Webster.
Yes, I am,
Awesome.
yeah. Just you guys with code enforcement.
Very qualified individuals, the building inspector in other towns as well.
Uh-huh,
so
uh-huh.
We're lucky to have them.
Oh, good.
Would you outline sort of your responsibilities? I mean, are you
Yep.
building, electrical?
I am
health,
just code enforcement right now.
Code enforcement.
Just code enforcement, so most of the complaints.
So
and-
he is certified to do
Yeah,
electrical and all of those inspections.
I am an International Code Council certified building inspector.
But you're not gonna do that for me.
I am not, you
Not
guys currently
yet.
have that position filled, so that is not the position I hired for.
But I would expect that Tom's not gonna be doing it that much longer,
Yeah.
considering he's in his mid-80s. So,
Okay. I mean, it makes a lot of sense to do
They
that.
typically go hand in hand, yes, if that's where you were going, yes. In other towns, I am the building inspector and code enforcement officer as well.
Which towns?
I currently do Chichester and Gilmanton.
Oh, wow. And where do you live?
I live in Loudon.
Well, thank you for coming to
Yeah.
Little Webster.
That's where I was tonight. Chichester had a budget Board of Selectmen meeting, but it was really quick and easy to get me in and out of there, so that's why I was like, I got time, I'll shoot up here.
yeah, because originally Dobie couldn't make it because he had that previous
Yeah.
commitment, which is understandable. I mean, it is
Yeah,
what it is.
yeah.
I can't attend every afternoon or every evening meeting, just so we're all, I can't, I got other commitments and I don't make every one of them, it's just, it's not how it's gonna
And I
work.
would,
If
I
there's
would tell
something
you
important.
well in advance if we wanted you to be
Yeah.
at the meeting.
But you have a
Yeah.
building contractor background too, right?
Yes, I've been in construction for, God, what am I? 12 years. GCs, subcontractors, I've done masonry work, I've done waterproofing, I've built houses, I've been a superintendent for building a house. I know it sounds a lot fancier than what it actually was on site, but those are technically what I did.
We're very fortunate to have you, Craig.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm all in favor.
And I started my,
Something we've needed for quite a while.
Yes.
And I've started
I
off.
mean, Emmett's been complaining a long time about his, it sort of fell to him and he didn't like that so much.
and thankfully I started construction in Massachusetts doing commercial, so that gave me a little bit more information than I needed to. I get the laws a little mixed up once in a while, I just have to open the book and reread them.
But I think the plan of action right now is to get them familiar with the ordinances, get you comfortable with the town and the community, and then we're gonna start moving out to do some of these enforcement actions. I want them to go out and see some of the ones that we're already currently working on, such as some of the junkyard ones, see
Yeah.
the letterage. We've been working on forms together to try to make a more streamlined process. We developed the code enforcement form that gets all the necessary information for the attorney. I haven't passed it through legal counsel yet, because I do want him to briefly look at it and make sure that's what he thinks he's gonna need if he ends up going to court. And then we're gonna move from there. So it's kind of, I'm hoping to offload some of the code enforcement operations I have currently going onto you, sorry.
It's fine.
But
That's what you're paying me to do.
so you can handle it with support from me, because obviously I'm the one with the assessing files, a lot of the ability to get the background information and to help you get those letters out, because like I said, I showed you templates, we have that stuff.
Yep.
And we're just moving in that direction as we go forward.
Yeah, the only difference is you guys just don't claim IRC 113.2 as notice of violation because you don't have a building code.
Well, we're working on that.
I'm just kidding.
That's being worked
Why
on.
do you think I mentioned it?
We're working on it.
I know it's getting worked on,
It
trust
was
me.
voted down, I think, 5 or 6 years ago was the last time it was on the ballot, it was voted down.
It's,
So we need to try it again at some point.
yeah, that would be nice to get, because then it's gonna at least streamline everything a little
And I
better.
think it would make it easier to enforce some of this stuff too.
Yeah, well, like we talk about all the time, I can't enforce your addition on your house
If
when
you-
you already built it and you didn't tell me.
True. And if
How
you
am
don't
I
need
supposed
a-
to enforce
And
that?
currently in the town, you don't need a permit for that, so that's one of the biggest problems.
You either adopt a building code or adopt a notice of intent to build.
Yeah,
Simple
something
as
like
that.
that, it's gotta be worked on. But that's through you guys, so
Oh, we have to do that?
it's part of the
Yeah.
zoning ordinance.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll happily help you. It's, I think it's
Put that
very
on the
easy.
agenda.
Yeah.
You just start telling people no.
Right. Well, I think, I'm gonna wanna talk to Therese about it too, 'cause she was around the last time you guys tried to adopt the building code. And I do have a file on it, but it'd be nice to have her come
Yeah.
and talk about what some of the biggest pushback was. So we know how to address that going forward the next time. So we know where we failed, so we can try to succeed next time by addressing those concerns ahead of
Before.
time.
I always find that it's, sorry, I saw your hand. I find that it's more of people just don't want you in their business. But when people understand, that you're not there to look at every problem on their property. I inspected a property this morning. They have tons of other stuff I should be looking at, but I'm there for gas. I'm there for gas piping. And if I'm not looking at gas piping, I'm going to miss something. So I don't care that your, ball valve is leaking. I made a note of it because it was right in front of my face, but it's not my problem today. Today, my problem is making sure the gas line is done right, it's hung correctly, it's under pressure the right way, it's going to be hooked up and installed the right way. And then later in the future, I'm gonna come back, and if it's still leaking, I'm gonna say, hey, by the way, I saw that. Thankfully, the owner reached out and said, hey, I noticed, the plumber said you saw something. I said, yep, I did. Your ball valve is leaking, you need to have that replaced. By the way, the ball valve isn't hung properly. Please put hangers on it. So we addressed it all in one, but because it was in front, I don't, that's the big thing, is people don't want you in their business, but once they understand that, you're not there to poke at every single thing.
Is the ball valve that connect to the water line from the street, is that what we're referring to?
No, it's just a fancy term for a shut-off valve.
Oh, okay.
It's the
Which
ball
is
inside
connected to-
that,
yeah.
it's the ball inside that opens and shuts, and it's just a shut-off
Okay.
valve, that's all it
Which
is.
could either fill the cellar full of water or.
Yeah, it's as simple as that, and that's, like I said, that's what I find is the issue, is
As a
people.
homeowner, you want that fixed, because when
Yeah.
you need to
Yeah.
shut it off, you wanna be able to shut
Wow.
it off.
Well, that's the thing, they're going for a CO, so no
Yeah.
matter what, they're not getting one.
Right.
On that.
I didn't know which side of the foundation it was on.
If I go to your house and you're just there to put a gas line in and your ball valve's leaking, I can't say, you need to fix that. I can say, hey, by the way, I noticed your ball valve's leaking, and they're gonna go, yes, it is, and I'm gonna say, okay, your gas line's fine, and then you move forward.
99% of you people are gonna say, thank you very much for pointing that out.
Yeah.
They got
Yeah,
half right.
oh, I'm
No,
glad you noticed that.
And that's the thing, is,
Wrong.
Yeah.
I think it's because you guys haven't had a code, so people think that you're just gonna go in there and enforce codes
And
left and
find
right.
all these picky things.
Yeah,
Look
but
at
that's
it.
not my business.
Yeah.
I have to be invited on your property. You're inviting me on your property to look at one specific item. I can't just go, hey, by the way, I noticed this way over here. Now, if it's blatantly an issue, yeah, I can say, hey, by the way,
You might
I
want-
see you're building a deck over there, and they're gonna go, yes, I am, because there's no deck boards on it. Do you have a permit? Oh, well, I did, okay. Can you fill out a permit for me, just so I can get it under?
And here, I have the permit in my car that you
Yep.
can fill out.
By the way, here's my email. Just email it over to me. I will approve it, and it's no harm, no foul. You can't ignore the blatantly obvious, but
Yeah.
it's the people that think you're gonna go in their house and poke around and find stuff.
It all sounds good.
That sounds great. good to have you on board.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to do this.
And when the other gentleman retires, it'll be good to have someone in the stack.
Right.
Okay, thanks.
I think you can be free now.
Beautiful. I'm gonna go look at a Christmas tree in a window.
Okay.
That was the benefit of coming up here tonight. I was like, I don't have to do that next week. I can do it now.
Right,
So I'm out of work for next week, though, Russell.
yeah, okay. Ugh. Yeah, the night stuff is gonna be hard to get here to look at. It's because we're gonna have you look at some camper trailers too.
That's all right. We're gonna
Issues.
figure out the schedule that works best. I know 9 a.m.
Yeah.
does not, so now that we know 9 a.m. is not gonna work, we'll figure it out.
Yep.
I'm not too worried about it. It just
And
takes a
9
month
a.m.
to
on a
figure
Monday
out.
is when I have a line out the door.
Yeah. No, it just takes a couple months. You figure out what works, what doesn't, the time
Right.
frames, and then you just stick to whatever's gonna work.
Right.
Tell you, I'm not coming here at 3 o'clock on Friday though.
No, well,
Not happening.
but that's peak time, like that's ideal.
Stop it.
That's-
All right.
Perfect.
Have a safe drive.
Thank you.
Here, thank you.
It's
Nice seeing you.
Thanks for
Nice
input
to meet
this
you.
evening. Yep, take care.
All right. So this is something, the master plan update is something I put on the agenda a while ago, and then we got sidetracked because other stuff happened. But it really needs to, we really need to start looking at what we want, what's in the master plan, and what kind of survey we wanna put out to the people to see how they would like the master plan updated. So I included the survey from last time about what was done. And I want to know if the board to take it, review it, and maybe send me an email, everybody send me an email of what they think. And if they think things need to be added to it, or questions are no longer relevant, that we can take off. And kinda get me a general idea, cause I'm hoping the next big mailing I don't think we're gonna make for the town, which is the inventory forms. But I think tax bill time is coming up. That might be a good time to send out a survey in July-ish and hopefully get the responses by the end of August or something like that. And that'll give us time to work on it at the end of the year to try to come up with some drafts. I don't expect this to take, I expect it maybe to take 1.5 years to do.
Most of it, I mean, I did read through it. Most
did
of it I
too.
think is fine, the way it
Right.
is.
I have a suggestion now, it's kinda silly, but sometimes when people open surveys that immediately ask personal information, they're like, I'm not doing this, it's none of their
Well, I'm not gonna
business.
put personal information in there, that's kind of my goal. I wanna do it as a straw poll, like we've done at town meeting, because we can do that. I can have it be a live poll online, set it up, that maybe, I don't know, I have to remember how straw poll works. I think you can set it to a specific password or a specific login, that they have to have the link. They can go in, do the poll, I'll get the numbers live when it comes in, and then I can report it back to the board. And I also, like you said, don't wanna put any questions about personal stuff in there.
Yeah.
It's more or less gonna be generic to the ordinance.
So on number 5,
Yeah.
given
So
the
what
new,
else?
given the new generation, what would be wrong with putting in there currently living with a relative?
I'm not saying it's wrong to put it there. My suggestion would be,
Oh, I'm not being critical, it's not there now, I'm just,
these questions say an age group and such, these questions to put towards the end instead of the beginning.
I agree, that's a
Because
good
it's a
idea.
turn on.
Okay, yeah.
People see that and like, it's none of their business,
Right,
you know? So I would suggest putting these questions at the end,
yep.
no, that's not a terrible idea.
yeah.
But
More
would you-
pertinent stuff up front.
Would
And
you
make
be
them
okay
optional.
with the addition of,
Yeah,
are you
make them
currently
optional.
living with a relative?
Right,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yep,
no, I
just-
think that makes sense.
The other questions, though, I think that we really wanna know, their ideas and their opinions, put that up first.
Right,
Because that's gonna perk their interest. They wanna tell you what they wanna tell you.
That is a very good point.
Yeah,
And try not to make it too long.
well, that was, I thought this survey was a little bit long.
It is a bit
long.
long.
It is long.
Yeah,
Like, if I can keep it to, 15 questions,
yeah.
Yeah.
and have like 15 questions that are multiple choice, and then a couple open-ended questions, I think,
Yeah.
is not too big of an ask.
Mhm.
And if we can get some, I really wanna get more feedback than we got last time, cause last time I looked at the results, I think it was 240 people responded.
is that it?
That was it. out of a community of about 1,500 probably at the time. I'd like more response than that. I would love to try to get, at least 500, I think would be a good number. And that's, I think, something that's realistic and I can shoot for. But then again, I don't have much hope with what happened with the hazard mitigation survey. That was up for a while and we didn't get much response for that one. So
I think in your number 25, I think you can narrow that down a bit, but I think there's a lot of good information if you can get people to answer it, that's the other.
Yeah, get
Yeah.
that on top.
I bet you'd see a generational change with all the new people moving into town.
Yes.
But I could be wrong.
Those are the kinds of questions that I'd like to see in the beginning versus the end.
Point made.
Let's
No, it's a
spark
good
their
point.
interest.
It's a very good point.
Yeah, Dave?
I would just say that I really like the idea of it going out with taxes, because everybody will see it, even if they don't pay attention to it much, and you can encourage them to return it with their taxes.
Oh, that's a great idea.
yeah. Well,
What about escrows though? People that have their taxes
Well,
escrowed?
certainly not everybody's
They
gonna.
won't.
even
gonna
people
have it.
who have escrow still get the bill.
They do, yes.
They just don't necessarily open it.
My point exactly.
Well, that was, Dave had a good point that if it's ready by town meeting, we could actually have it at town meeting.
That would be
And
wonderful.
one of the reasons I really wanted to do it on a format rather than do it as a paper survey, as a straw poll, because then the data's already put in the spreadsheet.
Yeah.
There's no data entry part of it either.
Right, right.
But you're gonna have an option for a paper, aren't you?
We would,
Yeah, yeah.
they would have to come down to the town office, obviously, and do it.
Yeah, I would just say that the demographics of Webster, by and large, are not computer people.
Yeah,
Right.
which is why you've gotta have the paper as well.
Well, there's that, or I could also set it up in the office and say, hey, here you
No.
go.
No,
They
They're
won't
not gonna
touch
come
it.
and do it.
Yeah.
They won't touch it.
But
Some
don't
will,
have,
but many won't.
don't have 100% expectations, you're gonna be 100% successful in any survey, especially in a
Right.
small town. I would say if you get 50, 45 to 59% back, you're a lucky guy.
I would agree, that's why I was saying
Yeah.
500, because that's a fourth
Which
of
is
the
only like
town.
a third or
A
less,
third,
a fourth.
It's like about a fourth of the town. And I would be ecstatic.
Just saying.
Realistically-
Calculate how many people you get on voting day.
Well, there you go,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
240 last, what
Right.
was it, 180 last
Yeah.
town?
so,
All right. So we should send you comments on this?
Yeah, send me some comments, and then once I get a bunch of comments, I'm gonna try to remake the survey, put sample questions down, and I'll have the board look at it again. But that's kind of the direction I'm moving, and this is like the first. And the other thing I would like the board to do, and you're the chair, technically it's you're in charge, but
No, let's be honest, you're in charge.
I would like to have people go over the master plan and maybe take a quick, brief read of it. It's a longer document. That's one of the other things I would like to address, is the master plan's kind of a beast, if anybody's ever seen it. I think it's something like 70 or 80 pages.
Oh my.
It's not a quick read. And I know there's been some movement in the planning direction to make the master plan a more accessible document by making it a lot shorter and a lot more concise. I think the expanded detail is important, but that could be done as if you want more information on
Yeah, go
X,
to this.
you can go over to this document to read it. But this is more of just a brief overview of the direction the town wants to go in. Here's the bullet points, and this is what we're looking at. If you want more details on how we think we're gonna get there, please refer to this bigger document. And I'm gonna look into some of the communities that have done that more streamlined format to see if we can use some of those
that's
tactics.
a good idea.
Yeah,
Yeah,
To the point I was gonna make earlier, but also this, I don't know if there's any appetite for involvement, but you should definitely, both on the building permit side and on the master plan side, at least reach out to one of the previous chairs, Sue Roth.
That
She
makes
had
sense.
a large hand in both of those, I
Yeah,
believe.
she's very knowledgeable
Right.
on that stuff.
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
I guess we have to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
I know, I bet they're full of typos. I hope not.
That's pretty short, huh?
It was a
was-
short meeting,
It was actually quite short, well, because it was an open hearing and nobody came.
and nobody showed up.
Hey,
In fact, I wasn't even here for half the meeting, cause I had to go downstairs to grab something. By the time I was back, half the meeting was done.
oh yeah, because we realized, I opened the public hearing, there was nobody here, and so we closed.
Yeah,
Almost, it was. And then, we also talked about the, HOA,
right.
and you might have been downstairs when we did that.
No, I was here.
Oh, you were here for that? Yeah.
And
we
I talked to
basically-
Mr. Oliver about it today, cause Dean had mentioned that he was asking about it. And the last I left it, is I told our attorney that the board was okay with it. And the language, we just needed to get their attorney to make the changes. I don't know, there must have been a miscommunication somewhere, but the changes haven't been made yet. But I talked to Mr. Oliver today, I got him the changes the board approved at the last meeting. I'm like, if you just make these changes, the board's happy.
And it's passed as long as those changes are.
And my next step is, cause this is my first HOA, I haven't done it before, I wanna talk to Chris and go, so do I record this? Do they record this? Does the board have to sign off on it? Does it have to be notarized? What's that next step for the recording of what needs to happen? And then go from there and then finish it off. So that's the plan.
Who is Hemlock Hill owner?
That's the Little Hill.
But that organization already exists, so I'm wondering is that the organization that's gonna manage?
Yeah, that's gonna be the HOA. This
Okay,
Hemlock
It's gonna
Hill,
manage the property?
right.
Are we talking the place up on Little Hill?
No, the-
Correct.
Oh, okay, I didn't know.
As a point of information, I talked to him yesterday, he is now starting excavating,
Oh, good.
cutting. He was actually doing some more siting to make sure the road's going where it's supposed to be,
Nice.
thinking he may have to move it north a little bit to get, and he also emphasized the fact that he was gonna make plenty of extra room
Oh, for the turnaround.
for the turn, because then he was there and he messed up the bus turning around.
I was gonna
Yes,
say, I
he had
couldn't
to
figure
back
out why
all-
the bus was backing up past my
Yeah.
house to,
Yeah, you want-
instead of turning around down at the end.
well, there's two vehicles and a bobcat. So, but, yeah, like he said, gonna make sure there's plenty of room for somebody to
Nice.
park and for the normal,
He seems like a pretty nice guy. and
They're
He's
very
trying real hard
responsible
to get
people, I
it.
think.
yeah.
Work, right.
I see him in church almost
Yeah.
every Sunday, and so he's been very,
The
very
homo-
good.
The homeowner association, though, it says it's a nonprofit, but I don't see it listed as a nonprofit.
No,
I don't think it's been formed yet.
Okay. They got a long road to go. They've been in business though since, for a number of years, so that's why I was surprised. 1989 was when they were formed. However, they don't have a nonprofit status yet.
Is
Is
this
that the same one?
Hemlock Hills Association, Homeowners Association.
Is it the same one, or, cause that's a different email address from Mr. Oliver.
They're different people. Well, that's why I was wondering who the
Right.
Hemlock Hill homeowners are. If it's the association that they're hiring to manage,
Hemlock Hollow, not Hemlock Hill.
Hemlock Hill,
It's Hemlock Hollow.
Hollow, okay.
I was just
I
kind
didn't see it then.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that,
see,
at least
it's
that's
not
what's on
here.
the,
Yeah,
on the minutes.
okay.
Hemlock Hollow.
Yeah, it's not on the IRS nonprofit list, that's why I was,
So they would have to form that out.
if they're
I'll have to-
new, they'll have to do that, and
Right.
I would ask about that.
Yeah. And I know the process. It takes about a year to get that done, 6 months to a year. Cause I just went through it with a nonprofit to help them set up, so I have been through it once.
With the AG's office?
With the AG's office, cause I had to tell them, well, you have to do it in two parts. You have to get it approved by the state and also by the IRS, and then you have to
Yes.
work through it, and you have to develop your bylaws and all this other stuff. And
Yes.
then I had to go over the trick questions on the IRS form, cause there's a couple trick questions, and get them through that. This is me and my volunteer work,
Yeah.
so,
So
But I
we're
saw
good with
They
that?
they
Yeah.
don't have that status, yeah,
right.
so.
So do we have a motion to approve the minutes of the December meeting?
I wasn't here, so.
Actually, it would have to be either Dean or,
I'll make it, I'll move. to
I guess I'll
approve.
second it. All in favor?
I
Two abstains because they weren't here.
think that's what happened last month, it was.
You still can do it. An abstain isn't a no, it isn't a yes, but it isn't a no.
The other thing that occurred to me this afternoon when I was thinking about the meeting is that have we ever officially, now that you said you didn't want to be the vice chair, is that still true?
Sure, I can,
You keep,
because I'm only going to be a alternate, not a permanent member. Just as an alternate. I know you said that I can be vice chair as an alternate,
Okay.
but that doesn't put you in a bad spot if I can't make a meeting like last month? If
Well, so the
something comes
ideal
up?
is that you would know ahead of time if you weren't gonna make the meeting, and Susan would say, I'm not gonna be able to make this meeting, are you gonna be there
yeah,
to take over ahead of time? And that's kind of how it's supposed to work. But say something happens to both of you randomly, then it would come if we had a quorum of the board. Generally, somebody would say, okay, I'll step up and
I'll
then,
chair, yeah.
I'll
okay.
step up and
So
chair
you can
it.
continue?
Sure, if you
Good,
like me to.
good.
yeah.
yeah, I think you do a good job, I think you both do a great job.
So,
As long as I come.
as long as I don't get too impatient.
Well, that's part of the good part. It moves it along.
I ran so many meetings as chair of an English department, and believe me, they can talk. And talk, and talk.
I run to the point.
Educators do that.
All right, so are we ready to adjourn?
Yeah.
Official motion or not, I think we're adjourned.
Okay.
I don't know
You made the
why.
motion,
Craig, did you have something you wanna say?
Do
You wanna
you
add?
need to put me in there? What,
so you were appointed by the select board last night,
okay,
so you just need to go to Mary at some point and get sworn in.
I'll get some.
And then he's gonna be another alternate.
Right.
All right,
Yay.
So that's all-
Your
Welcome back.
historical knowledge will be very
Yes,
helpful.
very much so.
I
Very much so.
haven't been back that long. My partner may think I'm historic, but,
Well, I think that was a good meeting, I'm gonna go take off.
Yes, please.
Good to see you, Dr.
yeah.
Drive safely.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's what I'm like.
Alton is a nice place to be. As you get